Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta. You're watching the World Report on NewsX World. We'll start with a check of the top headlines this hour. US President Donald Trump has just launched the Gaza Board of Peace with a signing ceremony in Switzerland at Davos. 19 countries have signed the landmark charter. US President Donald Trump steps back from threats to use tariffs or force over Greenland, saying a deal with Denmark is possible. NATO chief Mark Rutte says Greenland's sovereignty is not discussed, with Trump focusing instead on Arctic security. Denmark's foreign minister says US President Donald Trump has sent positive signals by ruling out military action over Greenland. Trump also says he has a framework deal and drops tariff threats after talks with NATO chief Mark Rutte. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he will meet US envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to discuss the war in Ukraine and frozen Russian assets. US President Donald Trump is also set to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Davos. Syria's government accuses the Kurdish-led SDF of attacks that kill 11 soldiers, but the group disputes the claims and blames at least one blast on Syrian troops. The incidents risk derailing a 4-day ceasefire as Damascus pushes for the SDF to integrate into the state. Rafael Tuaders, the son-in-law of Venezuelan opposition leader Edmundo Gonzalez, was released from prison earlier today after spending 380 days in detention. His wife, Mariana Gonzalez, said while marking his return home, Tuaders was detained on January 7, 2025, and his release comes amid broader political shifts in Venezuela. Nigerian forces rescued 62 hostages from the Manhai forests, a hideout linked to bandit leader Kachala Alti, as the UN says insurgency by Boko Haram and ISWAP has killed about 35,000 people. Meanwhile, in a separate operation, 5 soldiers and a police officer were killed in a terrorist ambush. According to Norwegian Development Minister, Jordan and Norway are deepening a strategic partnership that now goes beyond aid to include political alignment, economic cooperation, support for multilateralism, and coordinated positions on Palestine, international law, and UN reform. All right, viewers, on to the top focus story. US President Donald Trump has officially launched the Board of Peace at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Trump signed the founding charter, saying the board's primary goal is to ensure Gaza is demilitarized and rebuilt. The initiative, which could expand beyond Gaza's ceasefire, aims to work closely with the United Nations, but Trump hinted it could take on a broader role in global diplomacy. Let's have a look at some of the crucial statements.
Been very clear that Hamas must return that last remaining deceased hostage as well, and that will be the full commitment. And then we get on to other things, and we're committed to ensuring Gaza is demilitarized, properly governed, and beautifully rebuilt. It's going to be a great plan, and that's where the Board of Peace really started. And I think we can spread out to other things as we succeed with Gaza. We're going to be very successful in Gaza. It's going to be a great thing to watch, and we can do other things. We can do numerous other things. Once this board is completely formed, we can do pretty much whatever we want to do, and we'll do it in conjunction with the United Nations. You know, I've always said the United Nations has got tremendous potential.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has expressed a readiness to support the Board of Peace, proposing to send $1 billion from Russia's frozen assets to assist the Palestinian people. Putin also proposed discussions with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas about joining the initiative. Now, joining me in this discussion are Aharon Levarko, who is an Israeli journalist, joins us from Netanya in Israel. We also have Andrew Latham, international affairs expert from Minneapolis, and retired Major General Sudhakarji, who is a senior strategic and international affairs expert, joins us from Jaipur in India. So I'll start my first question to retired Major General Sudhakarji. Sudhakarji, that was a very long address given by Donald Trump officiating the Board of Peace for Gaza's reconstruction. How do you assess the inclusion of the 19 countries that signed the charter? Pakistan has joined it. Russia, however, has not joined it as of now, but the developments are coming in about it offering $1 billion to the Palestinian people. A lot of contentions also being raised about the role of the body, some fearing it could rival the UN.
Good evening, Kriti. Thank you for inviting me to your show. Long ago, Victor Hugo, he said that even the largest army in the world cannot stop an idea whose time has come. So despite being at the moment a speculative analyst, all I would say, if the end state objective is positive that Donald Trump is striving for, there is no harm in trying to bring this mindless conflict to an end. So having said that, there are a lot of pitfalls and there are a lot of counter arguments. Does it mean that we continue by sidelining an existing arrangement which is based on the architecture of transatlantic relationship just because one man has decided that it's no good, it's been penetrated by many forces inimical to the interest of the US, nor the global order is moving in the right direction, but it never, if that be the interpretation, it never was. But however, something is better than nothing. So therefore, the counter arguments would always belie the expected end state objective which Donald Trump is looking for. So at the moment, I would say that everything is not going to come out in crystallized form and going to be very assuring for a conflict which has been lingering on since 1947-48, despite all agreements. If there is any hope, glimmer of hope even, to make some viable achievement, at least some beginning has been made, some exchange of the hostages and prisoners have taken place, and Israelis have given some kind of indication to fall back behind the yellow line, and Hamas also have given indication under duress or call it under pressure that they have made some kind of indication and commitment that they would disarm. I have my doubts at the moment, all I would say. Still, I still feel that in 21st century, regardless of means and methods, at least the larger and the end state objective should be pursued in earnest by one and all. There is a lot of positivity and there is a lot of factor of also the achievement which at the moment is biasing any kind of decision towards a positive spiral and peace and normalcy in the Middle East. But at the same time, there are some caveats. Even the groups and the people who are opposing this particular move, I personally feel that a kind of engagement with all the stakeholders is very important because you are ignoring an established kind of an organization that is the United Nations. Therefore, one would do well to actually make it comprehensive, engaging, and give little time to the entire idea to fructify and materialize in the right direction.
All right, Sudhakarji, thank you for your comment. To continue to stay on with me, please. I'd also now like to go to Andrew Latham. Andrew, how would you respond to the fact that Trump has said that this Board of Peace is not meant to replace the United Nations, however, also said that it goes beyond Gaza to address global challenges? Are there this Board of Peace? Because it's unclear from Trump's statements as of now.
I think that's really in the longer term, beyond the Middle East. This is the most significant kind of question. It's clear that to Trump and many of his supporters, the so-called rules-based international order is dying, if not dead. And all of the institutions that were created that constitute that order, the United Nations being the most obvious one in this context, are obsolete and passing from the world stage, and they need replacements. And to Trump's mind, the Security Council is, a UN Security Council is gridlocked. The permanent 5 members have vetoes. They don't represent the majority of people on Earth. There's no Indian veto, for example. It is a product of a bygone era, and something new and more flexible and more capable needs to be put in its place. And that, I think, is his defining vision for this Board of Peace. He genuflects in the direction of the United Nations, but he really has no time for the United Nations. This is meant ultimately to supplant the United Nations Security Council as the place where people go, not to bring deep, lasting peace to address the underlying causes of conflict, but to end the bloodshed quickly, which is his vision. And so it could be quite a monumental, epochal development, in the same way that creating the UN was a big deal in 1945-46. This could be a big deal in 2026, 2027.
All right, sure. Do stay on with us, Professor Latham. I also have Aaron Levarko. Aaron, how do you view the fact that Vladimir Putin has agreed for the use of Russian frozen assets for the people of Palestine? We know how much he has resisted European Union's pressure to use those frozen assets for the reconstruction of Ukraine, but here he comes out and says, I'm willing to offer you $1 billion for the people of Palestine, and he wants to make that conversation with the president of Palestine.
Well, Vladimir Putin is a strategist, and number of the people, the nations that joined in with Donald Trump in this bureaucratic meeting, they are either European or from NATO, and so Vladimir Putin has to tread the ground very carefully who he makes alliances with. There's just been a new alliance recently with Pakistan, with Qatar, with Saudi Arabia, with Turkey. We know that Vladimir Putin has dealings with Turkey as well. So he, I think the fact that he's pledged $1 billion for the Palestinian people is showing a hand there that he's behind the rebuilding of Gaza. How much he's behind, we will see. There's got to be some kind of accountability with all the money that's going to be handed into this technocratic group of Palestinian businessmen. Israel will be carefully watching this, because if we go back to 2007, when Israel pulled out of Gaza, handing Gaza autonomously over to the Palestinian people with great hope for a peace. What happened was, not long after that, Hamas, in a coup d'etat, they took over the leadership, and we've seen billions and billions of dollars of international money going into the Gaza Strip. It's been exposed where that money went, and that's to underground tunnels and to stockpiling ammunition. So, Donald Trump knows this. He knows the history. That's why he's asked for a disarmament of Hamas. That's why he's asked for a de-radicalization of Gaza, not to mention the last remaining captive. And those three things are from stage one. We're already talking about stage two, when three major events that were requested from stage one have not been fulfilled. I'm an optimist, just like the general. I think I agree. It's good that they're making steps. They're making an effort. And I'm hopeful, but at the same time, there's some big concerns, not to mention the security of Israel long term.
Sure. Aaron, thanks for your comment. Do stay on with us. Viewers, some more updates now coming in. Zelensky has landed in Davos, and US President Donald Trump is set to meet the Ukrainian president later today in Davos. This, of course, coming after Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff expressed optimism about finalizing a deal to end the ongoing war in Ukraine. Now, Witkoff has mentioned that discussions have narrowed down to one issue, which he believes is solvable. Although Witkoff didn't elaborate on this issue, it's widely speculated that it pertains to the future status of Ukraine's industrial heartland in Donbass. Moreover, Witkoff's comments come ahead of his visit to Moscow for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. President Trump has also weighed in, expressing confidence that both Putin and Zelensky are at a juncture where an agreement could be reached, adding that failing to do so would be a mistake. All right, I'd now like to go to Professor Andrew Latham for this conversation. Professor Latham, do you think after Trump's envoys and he himself meets with Zelensky, his team will be able to convince Putin over the question of Donbass?
Well, I hope I'm wrong, but I fear not. I think the interests of both Russia and Ukraine are simply miles apart. Russia has been signaling, whether it's for negotiating advantage or reflecting deeply held red lines, that it's not going to settle for anything short of occupying the territories that it claims are its, basically neutralizing and disarming Ukraine. And for Ukraine, neither of those two options are viable, not for Zelensky, not for the Ukrainian state more broadly. I still think there are miles to go before we sleep, since we're quoting some classics in literature. I don't think Donald Trump's much vaunted negotiating skills are going to be much help, because we're talking about existential stakes, basically. And this will be resolved in one of two ways, I think, either decisively on the battlefield or, more likely, I think, exhaustion on the part of both parties wanting a breathing space, if nothing else. Maybe a combination of the two. The Russians achieved most of what they want. They need a breathing space. The Ukrainians are desperate. They're running out of manpower, running out of kit. They're running out of time. They're running out of everything. You put all that together, and maybe exhaustion rather than negotiation is going to result in some kind of Korea-like armistice or ceasefire, not resolving the fundamental disagreements, but it worked, at least for South Korea, on the Korean Peninsula. It went from being poor and very undemocratic to being rich and very democratic. If a future Ukraine, even with these constricted borders, shares the fate of South Korea, that's not a bad trade-off in terms of life and limb at the moment versus democracy and prosperity in the future.
All right, sure. I also would like a comment on from Sudhakar G. General Sudhakar continued to stay with us. General Sudhakar, now none of the traditional Western European allies of the US have signed up for the Board of Peace. UK has also held off joining the board, saying if Putin comes on board, he might have to rethink, and that's clearly demonstrated in that signing ceremony. What do you think is the message that Europe is giving out, that they would not want to look at the question of peace in Gaza until peace in Ukraine is achieved?
Yeah, but there is a lot of meaning and a lot of implications behind the behavioral matrix of the European countries. I personally feel, my take is that Donald Trump, knowing him what he is, and he's very, very focused on certain issues, he's going to get around these people. The European countries who are skeptical of the outcome and the methodology of Board of Peace at the moment are predominantly driven by what's happening related to Greenland, and also the way he's insulting and humiliating the European countries, particularly a country like France. France is known for strategic autonomy. The least of the country that is going to accept anything like this. So I personally feel it's just a matter of time. And like in good old adage of management, they say if you want some change management to be done successfully, one has to go through the milestones of denial, resistance, denial, resistance, reconciliation, adoption, and finally acceptance. Perhaps as a student of geopolitics, as also management, I personally feel anything which is being done with a positive intent and outlook and objective must be given a chance. And to the best of my understanding and knowledge, what is coming in the open source is very little bit in incremental form. Behind the door, there are lots of tractor dialogues are in progress. Lot of reconciliation has taken place. Zelensky, for one, has scaled down his demand and expectations. And although it is based on developed on the paradigm of the Russian demands, but the fact remains that 20% of land captured by Russia is to be ceded ultimately sooner or later to Russia by Ukraine, that no sovereign and independent democratic country will be able to do until it is ratified by the parliament. Today, Zelensky as a leader has got no locus standi. He is not technically nor legally the president of Ukraine. Hence, that is a moot question which is coming to mind at the moment. As the time passes by, maybe there are new hiccups coming up, but I'm sure that the global body will keep circumventing all these and push ahead to finding a lasting solution to bring this conflict to an end. As regards the Gaza Peace Board, I feel it's just a temporary impasse. It will be overcome very soon. Those countries which are resisting to the change or reconciling to join the board sooner or later would see some meaning and objectivity of the entire plan, and they also would be mellowing down and joining the race for peace in the Middle East as well. Back to you, Kriti.
All right, so Dagarji, thank you very much for joining us in this discussion and giving us your insight. I would now like to go to Aaron, who continues to stay with us. Aaron, in your opinion, do you think that this meeting between Trump and Zelensky and then Trump's invoice with Putin could be the final one as far as the peace dialogue over the Ukraine war is concerned?
I wish I knew the answer, and I don't know the answer because we've been around in a few circles already.
Yeah.
And you know, the stakes are so high that compromise is not so easy for both sides. You know, there's pride, there's national pride, there's natural resources at stake, there's history. There's so many different layers here. But you know, Donald Trump, he's the what do they call him? The man of the art of the deal. He knows how to make a deal. And you know, love him or hate him, he's got a good history behind him. He was able to wager this peace with Gaza and bring so many people from different parts of the world to the table. Anything's possible. We'll sit back and see, but I really, it's a tough question to answer, and I don't know the answer to that question.
All right, sure. Aaron, thanks very much for joining us in this discussion. And with that, viewers, we're going to proceed. Now, as per reports, Ukraine has also launched an attack on Russia's energy infrastructure. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine confirmed damage to the Tamanef-Texas oil terminal and radar stations in Crimea, a UAV warehouse, a command and observation post, and an ammunition depot have also been attacked. Speaking on the attack, the General Staff has said that the attack has been carried out as part of measures to reduce the offensive capabilities of the Russian aggressor. Units of the Defense Forces of Ukraine struck the oil terminal, which is involved in providing the Russian armed forces. The General Staff has also emphasized that the Defense Forces of Ukraine will continue to systematically carry out measures aimed at weakening the offensive capabilities and reducing the military economic potential of the enemy in order to force the General Russian Federation to cease armed aggression against Ukraine. All right, with that, viewers, there's some breaking news now coming in from Spain. According to reports, a train has crashed against a crane in Spain's Cartagena. As per reports, several people are injured and one person is severely injured. Here's what we are learning so far. All right, unfortunately, I don't have those bites, but for now, viewers, that's all we have time for. Thanks for watching NewsX World.